heard of the word paradox? I don't like my work, but I love doing it. I don't like my friend, but I love spending time with her. I don't like my husband, but still I love being with him. This is what we call paradoxical behavior. The person I'm going to talk about today, she loved politics, but she did not like the way politics work. She loved Indian constitutional democracy, but she did not like the restrictions democracy imposed on her. She loved institutions like free press, but she did not like the freedom of the press. She loved what she did not like. The first and the only woman prime minister of the largest democracy, Mrs. Indira Gandhi, a paradox of her own, the most controversial ruler India has had. All her contributions to the country were noteworthy, be it positive or negative. Undoubtedly, she was very much criticized for the negative mark she made on her country. The moment I hear the name Indira Gandhi, the first thing that comes to my mind is the emergency. I even made a detailed video on this. But I realized the positive side of her is not being spoken enough. She should also be very much appreciated and respected for the bold decisions she has made as the Prime Minister of India. Remember, criticizing someone for their bad decisions is not disrespecting them. At the same time, appreciating someone for their due share for their good deeds is not whitewashing them. 11th January 1966, Lal Bahadur Shastri, who was the Prime Minister of India at that time, mysteriously died in Uzbekistan. There was a huge chaos in the country as to who should be the next Prime Minister. The Congress syndicate wanted someone who would be obedient to them, but there were many potential candidates waiting next in line like Morarji Desai, Neelam Sanjeev Reddy and S.K. Patel. But Mr. Kamaraja, who was known as the Kingmaker, felt Mrs. Indira Gandhi would be the right candidate. He thought Mrs. Indira Gandhi was not too strong and she would need the support of the syndicate to run the country, but little did he know that she was far from being a puppet. Kamaraja used his influence and made most of the chief ministers and eventually all the syndicate members to support Indira Gandhi. With Kamaraja, Indira Gandhi became strong enough to challenge Morarji Desai. It was on 19th January 1966, Indira Gandhi was elected as the Prime Minister of India after a bitter competition with Morarji Desai. But at the same time, Mrs. Gandhi faced a huge backlash from her own party members. She was given names like Gungi Gudiya, which means silent doll. Everyone started losing confidence in Congress. They thought Mrs. Gandhi was not a worthy candidate. Maybe it's more like they were not ready to work under a woman. Then how did she become the Indian Prime Minister that we know today? How did she deal with the rivalries? How did she become the fearless lady who did not even hesitate to impose emergency? You know, the nation which has this hunger to learn will always move forward no matter what. And that's why India is growing so rapidly today. We are never hesitant to learn the new skills and adapt to the ever-evolving market. One such skill that I would recommend you all to get expertise in is the AI and ChatGPT. And there's a free way to do that. Yes, you can learn AI, ChatGPT and 20 more tools like Midjourney, InVideo, Claude AI for absolutely free with this workshop by Growth School, which I recommend you all to take in this situation. Now, usually this is a paid workshop, but for the first 1,000 viewers who sign up using the link below will get it for absolutely free. Not just this, but in this workshop, you'll be able to master and use AI to do data analysis, get a salary hike, job hunting, start a business using AI, improve your Excel skill and achieve 10 times career growth. More than 1 million people across the world who have taken this workshop have got a good value from this, irrespective of the industry or profession they were in. So whether you are a tech professional or work as a freelancer, a business owner, founder, marketer or any other non-tech role, this workshop will be a game changer in how you work every day. Remember, it's absolutely free for my viewers and I want you to take full advantage of it. Don't forget, it's completely free for first 1,000 people. Check the link in the description now and sign up as soon as possible. Back to Mrs. Gandhi. In 1967 elections, several non-Congress parties joined together to bring down the Congress. Even many Congress leaders left the party and joined other parties. But still, Congress managed to win the election, but with the poorest performance ever. Congress lost in 9 states and influential leaders lost their positions. Local politics gained momentum and there were so many new elements in the space of electoral politics. All she was waiting for was the right time to prove herself. She made her first move, a landmark decision on 19th July 1969 by nationalizing 14 private banks. That was an audacious move. Even though people say it was made for her own benefits, it addressed 2 major problems of our country. First one, from 1947 to 1955, there were 361 banks were failing across the country, which means on an average 40 banks were failing every single year, and that resulted in depositors, common people, losing their money because they were not given any kind of guarantee by the banks. Second one is, these commercial banks were seen as catering to large industries and businesses, and agriculture as a sector was hugely ignored by these banks. In 1950, only 2.3% of the bank loans were given to the farmers, and in the upcoming years, the situation got even more worse. The motive was to make loans easily available for the common people, like people in agriculture, small-scale industries, traders and entrepreneurs, and also on opening new branches in rural and backward areas. Now, why do we think nationalization of banks was a good decision? Number one, before the government nationalized banks, mostly corporate families controlled the banking system in India. After the nationalization, it opened up the market for the common people. Number two, before the nationalization, the banks were concentrating only on the urban areas, but after the nationalization that happened, the banks started concentrating even more on the rural and backward areas. As per the RBI records, in 1969, there were 1,833 banks in village areas in our country, and that increased to 33,004 by 1995 thanks to the nationalization. Number three, since the government took over the banks, it also got the opportunity to take over the profit that comes out of the banking sector to use on the public welfare. Number four, private banks were hesitant to give loan to the agriculture and small scale industry people, but the nationalization made funds available to all these sectors. But this decision was hugely criticized by the Congress syndicate people and also by the opposition party people. She faced opposition both inside and outside Congress. So what Mrs. Gandhi doing was, she effectively took control over the country's financial system and also the financial capital, that is Mumbai, so that she could block off the funding of those people who oppose her, at the same time becoming a hero to those village people, which is the majority in our country. This was a masterstroke. This decision made people gain back trust in their government, in their prime minister. But this made the Congress syndicate clearly understand that she was not a gungi kudiya, so they expelled her from the party, but she made a new party and rose back. In 1970, she made another big move. She proposed the abolition of privy purses. Now, what is privy purses? When we got independence, there were several princely states, and Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel convinced the rulers of those princely states to join India, and he made them several promises. Significant one of them was to give them a certain amount of money, like a pension, from the government of India, and this is what we call privy purses. The privy purse amount was just a small part of India's budget, so proposing its abolition led to a spectacular politics. It was portrayed as pro-poor and anti-rich measure, which it was. She said the privy purses promoted inequality and unfairness in the society, and the financial support provided through privy purses was an unnecessary burden on the Indian economy, which I think is a very fair point. And once again, people were highly impressed with Mrs. Gandhi's boldness. But the privy purse provision was constitutional, so to abolish it, the constitution must be amended. So the issue was brought before the parliament, but it failed by one vote. It's funny to mention that a politician from Tamil Nadu had to continuously use washroom because of his indigestion, so he did not vote. But Mrs. Gandhi did not give up. She approached the President of India, and he passed an iconic order that all rulers cease to be recognized as rulers. So there are no rulers anymore, so the government don't have to pay them anymore. But the King of Gwalior filed a case in Supreme Court against this, and the Supreme Court declared the President's order unconstitutional. Exactly 12 days after this judgment, she declared that the efforts of working for the poor people is being crushed by the rich and powerful. On these grounds, she dissolved the 4th Lok Sabha and announced fresh elections. She contested the elections with the slogan Garibi Hatao. With this for the people of India, she became a Prime Minister who would go to any lengths for the welfare of its people. She was literally being worshipped by the people. In 1971 election, she won in a huge majority, and the citizens of India chose Mrs. Indira Gandhi as their Prime Minister. And in 1971, the bill to abolish privy purses was once again proposed, and this time it was passed by the Parliament. In a way, this was the beginning of a new era where Mrs. Gandhi's grip over the government as well as the country got strengthened, and challenging her became impossible. Meanwhile, on the other side, there was a huge unrest between the West Pakistan and East Pakistan. And in March 1971, things escalated further when the army of West Pakistan started attacking the local population of East Pakistan. So the East Pakistan declared that they don't want to be a part of Pakistan anymore and they want a separate country, and they named their country Bangladesh. But the Pakistan army gave a brutal response to this, so the Bangladesh formed an army on its own and started fighting back Pakistan. But they could not win Pakistan. As a result, many Bangladeshis left their country. Nearly 90 lakh refugees came to India at that time. Mrs. Gandhi suggested going to war with Pakistan, but the army chief Sham Bahadur asked her to wait and she agreed for that. But she knew if India went on a war with Pakistan, there would be a huge international pressure, especially from America. So in the meantime, she started her foreign travels to gather support for her country. The only country who could stand up against US at that time was Russia. So it made complete sense at that time to join hands with Russia. So in August 1971, India and Soviet Union signed a treaty of peace, friendship and cooperation. Once again, a strong move. And by 3rd December 1971, the Pakistani Air Force first hit India at the Bhuj Air Force Base at night, and that's how the war began. She cut off all the supplies of the military forces of the Pakistani ships in Indian Ocean. At the same time, there was a huge debate happening in the UN Security Council. America obviously supported Pakistan, but USSR stood with India and did not let any resolution pass against India. The Pakistan army was completely surrounded by Indian army, and they also faced a huge shortage of food and weapon supplies. And within just 14 days of the war, Pakistan had to surrender. This was a historic win. An army of 93,000 soldiers were made to surrender in such a short span of time, and this has never happened before in the whole world since the world wars. I agree she has committed grave mistakes which have literally paralyzed her country for so long, but I felt she should also be appreciated for showing such integrity and courage to take bold decisions in a complete man's world.